What's up? Welcome back. We are on day number 10 of our daily devotional series. I can't believe it's already day 10. We are like a third of the way in. And it's been so nice just to be able to be consistent with something, because I know it's super helpful for me when I have something to do in the morning, something to look forward to, just to really get me in that mindset, get me in that relationship with the Lord, like first thing in the morning. If I don't have something to follow or something to do, it can be really difficult to get in that place, right? Like life starts to get in the way. We start to think of our to-do list, all the things we got to do, and we kind of just don't prioritize it. I mean, at least for me. So this has been really helpful, and hopefully it's been helpful for you too. So today we're talking about remembering eternity. I'm gonna try to make this quick because your girl is a little bit hangry, okay? I didn't really eat dinner last night because I allowed myself to have some really great food yesterday. I just was like really craving French fries, so I ordered some hot chicken and fries from this place down the street. So good. I swear they put like crack in their fries. They're like so good with the sauce. So I had that earlier in the day, and then I just wasn't really hungry for the rest of the day. So now when I woke up, I'm like, okay, I'm freaking starving. So anyways, that's my little story about that. Definitely looking forward to some avocado toast for breakfast. But let's go ahead and dive in and not talk about food. Okay. So Romans 8:28 is the verse. It says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." So if you grew up in the church or grew up reading the Bible, I'm sure you've heard this verse. Excuse me. Sorry, this coffee, man. I'm sure you've heard this verse before. It's a pretty common one in Romans, which just tells us basically that everything works together for good. Like God is able to work everything together for good. Now, this doesn't mean that we just have the freedom and the ability to go do what we want and not care because, God's gonna work it out. Yes, we have freedom, but if you truly want to live for God, you should be making decisions that you feel he is going to be pleased with, that you feel he is calling you to make, right? So this doesn't mean that you can just go around sinning and doing what you want, knowing that God is going to work it out. Like he still will, and this is like a whole other topic, but we are called to follow his will in the first place. And if we stray a little bit, this is just saying that he will work that together. Sorry, I think that's kind of loud. He will still work it into his plan. So it's like if this is like the path, right? And maybe I should do it this way. If this is the path we're supposed to be on and we go a little bit over here, we're like veering off to the side, he will help bring us back and make sure that we continue on the path. It's not like if we go over here, we're like doomed to be this way. Like he will make sure that things start to work out for us to bring us back onto the path that he had for us in the first place. So today's devotional says, life doesn't always make sense. It's natural to anxiously wonder whether it's all going to work out. Faith says that we believe God to be bigger than our circumstances and that he can do anything and everything. But God isn't a performer waiting to fulfill the latest desires of our heart. Yes, God is the provider. He is also Father. The core of our relationship with God and God's relationship with us is love. Love is like a portal that invites us into that protective covering and supernatural plan of God. It's so easy to forget that we're part of something bigger than what we know. God sees every moment and strategically interweaves our moments, joys, and frustrations into the lives of others. He doesn't do this for us to please or satisfy us. He does this for the master purpose, eternity. Our trust in God must first be based upon a firm reliance in his undeniable love for us, to never abandon us. And then we must trust that what's happening in our lives is actually working together for a good that is eternal and magnificent. So the question says, what's happening in your life what's happening in your life is connected to a bigger plan orchestrated by God. How can this truth help you reframe your current circumstances and build more trust in what God is doing? So I really like this question because so often I think we can get caught up in our circumstances and we're like, God, why do you have me here? Like, I don't get it. What's the point? Why am I in this job? Why am I in this environment? Like, why are these things happening to me? Like, maybe you just keep getting hit with like bad news or just like really terrible things happening, and you're just like, I don't understand how this is working together for good, right? A lot of times we don't get it and we don't see the full picture, so we can't get it. Sorry, these planes are just flying right over right over. That's the only thing about sitting outside. I love doing these outside, but then I'm like, okay, every like 5 minutes there's a plane. But it can be difficult for us to really understand, right, from our perspective, because all we're seeing is what's happening right now in chronological time, whereas God sees the whole thing already. So he already knows how it's going to end. He already knew that we were going to be exactly where we're at right now. Like, nothing that you've ever done in your life or will ever do is a surprise. And I think that's something really funny I remind myself of, because sometimes I can get in my head and be like, oh my gosh, I messed up. Like, all of these years were such a waste. You know, I just completely messed up and I could have been so much further. I could have been here. I could have been doing that. I could have blah, 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 right? Like all of these could haves and should haves. And God is just like smiling, like, I knew you were going to do this. Like, I know you. Like, I knew you were going to be exactly where you're at. I knew you were going to make the choices to get exactly where you're at. And it's fine. Like, it's no problem. Like, I already have it worked out. I already sorted it out. I already know your next move and the next move after that. And I already know how to put the pieces together. It's such a crazy thought because obviously we can't see into the future. But it's like, when you really think about it, how insane is it that God literally knows and has woven together every single person on this earth, their choices, their behaviors, their actions. Like, he has already woven it all together. It is mind-blowing to think about, actually. Especially when I hope you can hear me. Especially when things happen where you are like intertwined with somebody else's life at like the most divine timing. That's why I love like divine interactions and divine meetings, when things just like come together with that involves somebody else, especially when there's multiple people involved. And it's like, this is such a God thing, right? Because all of these different moves were orchestrated perfectly for you and this other person, or you and all of these people, to be together in this specific moment at this specific time, right? So I think if we can have that mindset with everything in our lives, it can really help us to feel a lot better. Like I mentioned, it's not like an excuse of, okay, we'll just do whatever you want and God will work it out. But it can give us peace if we feel that we are trying our best to follow what God has for us, and maybe we've taken a wrong turn, or maybe we don't understand something. Maybe we're so sure of God's plan for something in our lives and it's just not happening, and we're like, okay, I swear, like, I was so sure of this, like, why is it not working in the way that I thought? Or, you know, God, when are you going to come through? Like, I really thought this was right. And just knowing that no matter how we feel and no matter what we see from our perspective, like, God sees a completely different perspective and he has it all worked out. So as long as we trust him and just completely rely on him to work things out in the way that he wants to, in the perfect timing, that's a huge one that comes up in all of these, right? The perfect timing thing, like really just trusting in his timing, not our timing. It really is, it just is such a relief to really trust in that and acknowledge that he sees the bigger picture from up here. All we see is our perspective from way down here. So although things may not make sense, they will at some point. And I think like a really cool way to remind ourselves of this is looking back on maybe things that happened in your past that at the time didn't make sense to you or were super random or whatever, and you saw how it forms together to make sense. So looking back on circumstances and really like reminding yourself of, oh, now I get it, right? And now all those things that happened make complete sense. That can be a really good reminder to move forward with that same mindset. So maybe that can be something that you journal about too, is like just a situation or an experience that you had recently or a long time ago where in the moment you were like so confused on what God was doing. Nothing made sense. Maybe you were in a place of like worry or fear or hopelessness, and then all of a sudden things started to make sense down the road. And maybe it was years later. I think a lot of times it can be like years and years later when all of a sudden the pieces start to come together and it's like, whoa, like I met this person like 5 years ago, and now because of that connection it's resulting in this, right? Like those types of things. So just trusting that God knows exactly what he's doing, and as long as you are in step with him and your spirit is in step with him, you'll be good. So let's go ahead and end with a prayer, and I'm going to eat some food. It says, Lord, I don't always understand what you're up to, but you are worthy of my trust and surrender. Thank you for choosing me to be an instrument of your holy agenda. What a joy to be included in your eternal plan. Amen. I love that because it's so cool to really just acknowledge that like we are literally working out God's plan in real time. Like how freaking cool is that? We are such an essential piece of his plan. Like just let that soak in. Like you are such an essential piece in his plan. That's pretty cool. Well, I hope you have an incredible day, and yeah, just remember that God will work all things out for your good. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and have an amazing day. Bye.